The first thing Sarah noticed when she stepped out of her car was the silence. Villisca was a quiet Iowa town, but this silence was unnatural, as if the air itself refused to move too close to the house that stood at the end of the block. The two-story white wooden home looked ordinary, almost quaint, yet something about it felt wrong. Its windows were black, empty eyes, staring at her with the weight of secrets that should have remained buried. 2 nights, that's it, she muttered, adjusting the strap of her bag. 2 nights for the book. Sarah was a writer of true crime books and paranormal accounts. The Villisca Axe Murder House had haunted her research for years. An unsolved massacre of 8 people in 1912, 6 of them children, their skulls crushed in their sleep by an unknown figure with an axe. The story refused to let her go, worming its way into her dreams, filling her nights with visions of shadowy hallways and blood-soaked walls. Now she was here, paid in full, $428 a night to immerse herself in the horror that drew ghost hunters, skeptics, and thrill seekers alike. She had told herself this was research. Deep down, though, Sarah needed answers. The caretaker, an elderly man named Gerald, shuffled toward her from the porch. His back was bent as if the house weighed on his bones. His eyes were pale, almost clouded, but sharp when they fixed on her. "You're staying alone?" he asked, his voice like dry leaves rustling. "Yes," Sarah said. He stared at her longer than was comfortable, then handed her the old brass key. "Don't stay upstairs past midnight. Whatever you hear, don't answer." She forced a nervous laugh. "You tell that to all the tourists?" Gerald didn't laugh. He simply turned, walked away, and left her standing alone in front of the house. Inside, the air was stale, heavy with the scent of wood polish and something metallic that reminded her of dried blood. The owners had restored the home to its 1912 condition. Every chair, every lamp, every bed frame was a replica of what the Moore family had once owned. It was like stepping into a preserved nightmare. Sarah wandered through the rooms with her notebook in hand. The kitchen was small, neat, with a table set for breakfast that would never come. The parlor held a blackened oil lamp, the same kind the Moore family had used on the last night of their lives. Upstairs, the children's bedrooms were painfully simple. Iron bed frames, quilts, toys scattered as though the kids had only just gone outside to play. She lingered in the master bedroom, staring at the bed where Josiah and Sarah Moore had been butchered in their sleep. The air felt colder here. Her chest tightened, and her pen slipped from her hand. Something moved in the corner. Sarah spun, her heart pounding, but the room was empty. Only the old rocking chair sat in the corner, still as stone. Yet she could have sworn, no, she knew, it had rocked once. That night she set up her recorder and camera in the parlor, determined to capture anything unusual. The hours dragged, shadows stretching across the walls. At midnight she heard the first sound, a thump. It came from upstairs, slow and deliberate, as though someone had dropped a heavy boot on the wooden floor. Sarah froze, her breath catching. Another thump followed, and another, measured, pacing. Her recorder crackled. A child's voice whispered through the static, "Don't let him see you." Sarah's skin crawled. She forced herself to climb the stairs, each creak of the old wood echoing like gunshots in the silence. The hallway stretched long and narrow, the doorways yawning black on either side. At the end of the hall stood a man. He was short, hunched, his face hidden by shadows, but in his hand gleamed the outline of an axe, its blade wet and glistening as though freshly drawn from a wound. Sarah stumbled back, heart slamming against her ribs, but when she blinked, the hall was empty. She didn't sleep that night. Instead, she sat in the children's room, her recorder on her lap. Hours passed in silence until, just before dawn, she heard it. The faintest sound of sobbing. She followed it into the master bedroom. The rocking chair was moving now, back and forth, groaning with each sway. On the bed lay the shape of a child, its head turned toward her. but where its face should have been, there was only a dark, pulped mass, bone and hair and blood pressed into an unrecognizable ruin. Sarah screamed and fled the room. By the second night, the house seemed alive. The walls groaned as though breathing, and every mirror in the house had grown cloudy, refusing to reflect her face. Sarah tried to leave, but the front door wouldn't open. No matter how hard she pulled, the knob burned her hand, branding the skin red. The house wanted her inside. That evening, she sat in the kitchen with her notebook, her hands trembling. "If you're here," she whispered, "show me." The oil lamp flickered. Slowly, words formed on the condensation of the nearby window, written by an unseen hand. "He never left." The kitchen clock ticked. 12:01. Upstairs, the footsteps began again, only this time they were running. Sarah climbed the stairs, though every instinct screamed to turn back. In the children's room, the beds were no longer empty. 4 children lay beneath the quilts, their small bodies rising and falling with breath. For a heartbeat, she thought they were alive, but then the blankets slid down, revealing their heads caved in, eyes glassy, mouths frozen in silent screams. The door slammed shut behind her. She turned to run, but the man was there again, short, stocky, his face lost in shadow. The axe hung loose in his grip, dripping. Sarah's recorder buzzed in her pocket. A distorted voice whispered through it, "Join us." The man lifted the axe. She bolted past him, tearing into the hallway. The walls pulsed, bleeding cracks splitting the wallpaper. Hands reached from the dark, children's hands tugging at her clothes, pulling her down. She stumbled into the master bedroom where the rocking chair was moving violently now, as though someone sat there laughing. On the bed lay 2 bodies, Josiah and Sarah Moore, their faces shattered, blood soaking the sheets, but their eyes were open, staring directly at her. "Why didn't you stop him?" the woman gurgled, blood spilling from her lips. The man with the axe entered the room, his shadow stretching long across the floor, his head tilted at an unnatural angle, bones cracking as he moved closer. Sarah backed against the wall. "What do you want from me?" she cried. The man raised the axe. Morning sunlight pierced the curtains. Sarah woke in the parlor, sprawled on the floor, her recorder beside her. The house was quiet, ordinary once more. Had it been a dream? She checked her recorder. Static filled the tape until a voice cut through, high and shrill. "She's next." Sarah froze. The voice wasn't a child's, it was hers. Gerald found the house empty that afternoon. Sarah's car sat in the driveway, her bags still packed inside. The front door was locked from the inside. In the master bedroom, the rocking chair swayed gently on its own, creaking back and forth. On the wall above the bed, scrawled in something dark and sticky, were words no one had ever been able to wash clean. 9 now.